Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was blasted recently while sandbagging in a flood zone in Ottawa. Conservative leader Andrew Scheer was also sandbagging, had his rubber boots on, but was left alone for the most part. Joining me now to talk about all things political and a little bit of sandbagging is Brian Lilley, one of our regular contributors. Brian, Trudeau had kind of a rough week. First from sandbag dude, then referring to Japan as China. He was also mocked on The Simpsons.
Yeah. Okay, let me start off with the sandbagging guy. And I always feel bad for politicians. It is kind of one of those damned if they do, damned if they don't moments when there's a natural disaster coming on. If they go, oh, you're taking resources away. If you don't go, oh, you don't care. And so I feel for politicians on these things. But I think what Justin Trudeau did was, and why he caught the ire of this particular volunteer, and then it was all caught on video, it went viral online, is that he brought along his kids. One of them is just about 5, 6 years old, in that range. You remember kids that age, Hal. They're not overly helpful on things like sandbagging. And Trudeau also took time to pose with a lot of people for a lot of pictures. And this volunteer was just infuriated that this was slowing up the process of trying to save people's homes in this rural West End part of Ottawa. So he let him have it, and it took off. The next day, he's standing twice, well, sitting once, standing the second time, with the Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe, and twice refers to Japan as China. I mean, these are two countries that have had vicious wars. They still don't get along. Japan sees China as a national security and an economic threat. So that's bad. And then on Sunday night, to top it all off, he was mocked on The Simpsons. They had him doing the whole thing, the yoga move where he balances on his hands, kind of planks on off the side of the desk. And Lisa Simpson asks him about the SNC-Lavalin scandal, and he scurries out the window and runs away. It didn't look good. And I asked him about this on Monday. He was making an announcement at an auto plant in Ontario, and said, look, is this deferred prosecution agreement with SNC-Lavalin still the right way to go? And he talked all about the jobs that it'll save, and he's going to stand up for jobs, anytime. And he referred to the entire scandal as an internal disagreement among Liberals. Of course, it's much more than that. It is potentially criminal, as I've explained before. This could be a violation of the criminal code. We'll have to wait and see what investigators have to say on that. But to just dismiss it as an internal squabble, an internal disagreement within the Liberals, that's a bit rich.
The SNC-Lavalin scandal is back in the news. I mean, not just with The Simpsons here. Illegal donor lists have been released, and the PM is commenting on that the government is keeping even more information on that file secret. Tell me more about that, Brian.
Yeah, I bet that Justin Trudeau wished this just came up in the episode of The Simpsons, but no, unfortunately for him, media reports looking into the illegal donor list. If you remember, there was about just shy of $120,000 that was donated illegally by SNC-Lavalin, and they signed a compliance agreement with Elections Canada. This is not up for dispute anymore. The company said, yes, we did this. What happened was from about 2004 to 2010, 11, in that range, what they were doing is they would tell their top executives, you or your spouse donate to these political parties and we'll reimburse you. Well, out of about 118,000, 8,000 or so went to the Conservative Party and 110,000 went to the Liberals. So obviously they were very Liberal friendly. And, one of them was a spouse of one of the executives at SNC-Lavalin, was also at one point the Attorney General for the province of Quebec. And, so these names are finally released. It was leaked to a media outlet. They published it. And Justin Trudeau's response is, oh, we wouldn't take those donations now. Well, I'm sure if you asked Stéphane Dion or Paul Martin or Michael Ignatieff, the other three Liberal leaders who were in charge when all of this went down, they would have, and you said, are you taking illegal donations? They would have said, oh, no, we're not taking illegal donations. Look, I have trouble blaming the parties on this because I don't think the Liberals or the Conservatives necessarily knew. Maybe some of their operatives did. But, did the guys at Central Party headquarters know that this illegal scheme was going on? That's probably doubtful. But on the other side, you mentioned the fact that some information is being kept secret. SNC-Lavalin submitted a 55-page dossier, a 55-page report on why they should not be prosecuted. And they sent this to the Public Prosecution Service of Canada and said, here's why we should get a deferred prosecution agreement. Here's why you should do it. Well, some media outlets said, all right, access to information. We want to see this. The response from the government, this is commercially sensitive material. I'm sorry, they're facing criminal prosecution over bribery and corruption charges. I don't see how this falls under commercially sensitive material. This is public interest, but the government said they will not release it. And by the way, everything I took away from Justin Trudeau's answer to my question the other day, the government is still looking at giving SNC-Lavalin this sweetheart deal that would see them escape prosecution on those bribery and corruption charges and just walk away from it.
Wow, unbelievable. Brian, the UCP government was just sworn in here in Alberta. Jason Kenney says our Alberta government will repeal the carbon tax and join the other provinces in court to fight the tax grab. Our Prime Minister is not happy with all the Tory premiers ganging up on him, attacking him and his carbon tax, so Trudeau went in the offensive against your Premier, Doug Ford.
Yeah, so when I asked him the question about SNC-Lavalin and other things that we'll get to, it was at an auto plant announcement. Toyota has a plant in Cambridge, Ontario, about an hour west of Toronto, and they were announcing that they're bringing the Lexus SUV production there. So it's a bit weird to see this prime minister that's always on about carbon taxes and reducing carbon there to celebrate the arrival of an SUV production model, but there Justin Trudeau was, and he just went at the Ford government with one of the ministers. Christine Elliott, the health minister and deputy premier, is standing on stage with him, and he is going full hammer and tong at the Ford conservatives and saying how wrong this is. He recently was at an international gathering in Montreal. And normally, you're on the international stage or in front of officials from other governments or the United Nations or business leaders. You don't have those internal country squabbles. The old line is, it's kind of like when you were a kid. If you and your brother and sister wanted to fight, you could fight all you wanted inside, but somebody else called your brother or sister names. No, that wasn't allowed. We show a united front as a family. Trudeau used this international gathering with Harrison Ford and a bunch of world leaders to bash Andrew Scheer and Doug Ford as climate change deniers. And he's going to be doing the same to Jason Kenney soon as the UCP and the Alberta government join this fight that now includes Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, New Brunswick, and possibly Prince Edward Island.
It's just incredible. The blue wave making its way across the country. Brian, more controversy surrounding our Prime Minister as he tried to link Andrew Scheer, Jason Kenney, and Doug Ford to white supremacy. And a recent story in The Sun, you say that it's really playing politics with terrorism, is what he's doing here.
Yeah, if you remember, we talked about this a week or two ago, the move to remove Sikh extremism and Khalistanis from the 2018 public report on the terrorist threat to Canada. And there was a lot of outcry in the Sikh community saying, oh, you can't blame all of us and you can't link Sikh extremism. And well, actually you can. And there is a problem with that. Well, that same report also had Sunni extremism, Shia extremism, and right-wing extremism, which includes white nationalism. The right-wing extremism and white nationalism part was about a paragraph long. It's shorter than everything on Sunni and shorter than some other stuff. But Justin Trudeau has been using that as a club to beat every other conservative opponent that he's facing. And he's trying to link Doug Ford to right-wing extremism and white nationalism, Andrew Scheer and Jason Kenney. Jason Kenney, who when he was in Ottawa was known as Minister of Curry in a Hurry. Jason Kenney, who will go to every ethnic event that he's invited to and partake and know some of the language and know some of the customs. Doug Ford, who gets huge support from the Black community in Toronto, the Asian community in Toronto. I've been out at events where this guy is just mobbed, especially by minority communities. But Justin Trudeau is trying to do this because he is desperate. He knows that their party is taking a hit over things like SNC-Lavalin, over other issues. And what's he got left? Well, let's call everyone a racist. Let's call everyone a white supremacist. And his liberal pundit, well, he doesn't call himself a liberal anymore, but Warren Kinsella used to run Jean Chrétien's war rooms. He ran the war rooms for Ontario Liberal Premier Dalton McGuinty, but he's disassociated himself with these guys. He says, when you call everyone a Nazi, then no one's a Nazi. And so calling Doug Ford, Jason Kenney, and Andrew Scheer Nazis just will not work. And in fact, it cheapens the actual hate crimes that are out there.
Another big issue that a lot of people in the prairies have with Justin Trudeau is the lack of pipelines being built. Now, new studies says the lack of pipelines is costing Canada more than $20 billion. Brian, what's the latest?
Yeah. And so we've heard before 13, 14, $15 billion a year that it costs the economy. And this latest study from the Fraser Institute says now it's closer to $20 billion. And of course, the federal government did buy Trans Mountain Pipeline and the expansion. They overpaid, according to many estimates, but they bought it. They haven't built it. Now they're saying, okay, well, we're supposed to have a decision by the end of May. Oh, no, it'll be at the end of June. Possibly now, Amarjeet Sohi, the infrastructure minister, says we may not have a decision before the next election, which is in October. And so pipelines are becoming a huge problem. We have a bottleneck. And, in Quebec, they say there's no social license for an Energy East pipeline that will run through that province. And they say they remember Lac Megantic. Well, if you remember Lac Megantic, then you remember that was a rail car situation.
Train, yeah.
And a train, and it was much more volatile, much more dangerous. Pipeline is, across the prairies. How many times have you been stopped by rail cars, by trains going by filled with oil, trying to move across the country or down to the United States, Hal? Sure, it helps Warren Buffett, who bought into some of these companies that own the rail cars, that own the lines, but it doesn't help the industry at all. And so, yeah, up to $20 billion a year this is costing us. It's unbelievable. It's got to stop. It's got to be fixed.
A big issue for Western Canadian farmers right now is China blocking Canadian canola, Brian. It's been devastating for farmers here, and you had a chance to chat with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau about it.
Yeah, so that was my follow-up question after asking him about his bad weekend and The Simpsons and, being a punchline about SNC-Lavalin on a cartoon show. He kept talking about jobs, and he's there to protect jobs. And I said, well, wait a minute. There's literally thousands and thousands of jobs, far more than are at stake with SNC-Lavalin, that are at stake because of this canola crisis. It started with Richardson, but it's moved on to several other exporters as well. And we're talking about farmers across Alberta, across Saskatchewan, across Manitoba, and as I recently discovered, across Ontario, in particular, Northern Ontario, where there's a lot of canola grown as well. So this is a multi-province thing. And where's the help? The Prime Minister, so far has called a working group. They're going to have a working group. They've said that they'll send officials over. Look, we know that this is retaliatory measures by China. This is over the whole issue surrounding the Huawei CFO, Meng Wanzhou. We know that it's tied into the Canadians that are detained there, that are facing harsh treatment. This is all China trying to punish Canada. But our government has been weak on all of these fronts. They have not pushed back hard enough. They have not called in our allies. And some of our allies, because this particular government has frustrated them, aren't willing to stand up. And so our canola producers are looking at huge problems. This is on top of the problems that we've got with durum wheat producers trying to sell into Italy, where they've been selling some of the top quality wheat to go into pasta for years. The pulse crops going into places like India that are facing huge tariffs. There are many problems for agriculture, and I'm not sure that this prime minister gets it.
Now, according to a former top Canadian diplomat, Brian, China is building up lists of other Canadian businesses and exports that they can strike out at if the trade war escalates. Tell me more about that.
This is a former Canadian ambassador to China, Guy Saint-Jacques, who was doing an interview and was asked about it, and he said, regional governments have been asked, what contracts do you have with Canadian companies? What is being imported into your region that comes from Canada? They're building a list so that they can strike out. I mean, it's much the same way, although more sinister, it's much the same way that when it came to pushing back against the American tariffs on steel and aluminum, we said, okay, well, which politicians will we hurt? Which ones can we try and influence by putting tariffs or putting pressure on? And that's what the Chinese are doing, except it's on a much larger scale and it's going to hurt our people much more than any tariffs, retaliatory tariffs that we put on the Americans.
Fundraising numbers are out, and the federal Conservatives more than doubled the Liberals' tally this past quarter. They're bringing in the big bucks.
Yeah, in the first quarter of 2019. So from January 1st until the end of March, this is vitally important. We're into an election year, Hal, and some people say that fundraising numbers are the equivalent of where's your vote going to go? Are you willing to put your money where your mouth is? The Conservatives raised more than $8 million. The Liberals, 3.8. So less than half of that. The NDP numbers at this point, as we're talking, the NDP numbers not out, but the Conservatives raised more than double the governing party. Normally, the governing party, unless they're on their way to defeat, the governing party raises more money simply by the fact that they are the ones that hold the levers of power. Yes, we have done away with corporate and union donations, but as we discussed earlier, it doesn't even have to be as elaborate as SNC-Lavalin. You get a CEO, a president, they want to, be able to schmooze with the prime minister. Well, they're going to donate the maximum amount to that person. And well, maybe they want to do that to the opposition leader as well. And that is all legal and allowed. And they're able to do that. But people are not opening their wallets for the Liberals. And that is shocking, considering how popular Justin Trudeau is, or at least was, considering that this is a government that still does pretty well in the polls. Well, maybe that support is softer than we think. I tend to think that the Conservative support is softer than some of the polls. There was a poll out from Leger earlier this week that said the Conservatives have 40% voter support, the Liberals at 27. I think that's a little bit of a stretch, but obviously these fundraising numbers show that when it comes to voting with your wallet, Canadians are willing to plop their money down with the Conservatives at a margin of more than 2-1 compared to the Liberals.
Well, here in Alberta, provincially, we say it was one and done when it came to Rachel Notley and the NDP. We'll see if it's the same thing for the federal Liberals and Justin Trudeau. One of our regular contributors, award-winning journalist Brian Lilley, joining me once again from Toronto. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Hal.